Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Season 5 of 2025 here at oNiD. We're back on iRacing with our usual Thursday installment here with the Super Formula Lights. It is time for officially round 2 of the series here at Mugello, just over 5 kilometers with 15 medium and high speed corners that these cars will absolutely love. Sub 600 kilos, 275 horsepower. What better to go racing around this wonderful Italian circuit? And directing us, as always this season, is the wonderful Aidan Hard. How are you doing, Aidan?
Oh, you flirt. Good evening. I'm very wonderful, thank you. I'll take that. There's many words people describe me as other than wonderful, so I'll take that and run for the hills with that one. Thank you very much. Good evening, all. Yes, officially round 2. Pizza, pasta, mamma mia. we're in Italy with Mugello. And what a circuit to be taking these cars around in as well. High downforce, lightweight, reasonably well-powered cars. And we'll see 19 drivers this evening taking to the grid for what will be, I am sure, a absolutely wonderful race. Qualifying is now underway as cars are coming out to the grid. We will see the first of those exiting the pit lane and going through the pit exit. And qualifying gets underway. Shared qualifying, all cars out on track at the same time. No private qualifying, so a bit more tricky to maybe get a lap in. Maybe getting a bit of slipstream every now and again for those trying to follow one another. However, they all go out on track. They figure each other out. It's already been someone being off already at turn 4, which is mighty wonderful to see. A bit of gravel being kicked up on on a racetrack there, and I'm just going to try and figure out who's the first one we're going to see on a lap. I have a feeling it may be Bottleston here. Off.
Bottleston is showing up on the timing screen as having already done a lap, which isn't quite possible with the minute we've had in the session so far, so I think that's just a little timing screen error. I think it's Dennis Pfeiffer's that is first onto the track, leading our train of AM drivers that are taking part in the first half of this qualifying session. The pro drivers will get the second half of the 20 minutes. And they'll be hoping that the AM drivers don't get too adventurous, don't bring too much gravel onto the track for them to tidy up. But yeah, we shall see as everyone on out laps here. And the Pfeiffer's is being recorded. It might just be a caveat of the start-finish line being right at the end of the pit lane. But yes, these are out laps, and Pfeiffer's will be the first to start a flying lap here into T1. Long right-hander, quite banked too, so you can take a few different lines through here. Want to keep it fairly tight on the exit to open up the turns 2 and 3 chicane. Compromise your exit through turn 3. For turn 2, sorry, open up turn 3, carry more speed on the exit on the short run to turn 4. Very similar chicane then 4 and 5. Compromise the exit again, open up the second part of the corner and try and carry some speed, which you can carry quite a bit of with the high downforce of the cars. As you get into the high speed section, into turn 6, fast left-hander, into the fast left-hander. Looks like the tyres maybe still a little bit cool for Dennis Pfeiffer's. This car moving around a little bit, not quite on the right line. Now the double right-hander of 8 and 9, sorry. Now up to turn 10, heavy onto the brakes. This time right-left chicane compared to the left-rights in the first sector. Not too many corners to go. Now I've got another long right-hander. A little bit of a crest as you get into the corner. Can cause the car to understeer a little bit as you get into the corner. But then rolls around on the exit. Get on the part as early as you dare through the little chicane here, designed to slow down the motorbikes that commonly run around Mugello. And then it is just one final corner to go. Long left-hander that rounds out the lap here. All the long corners will certainly put quite a lot of heat into the tyres, maybe overheat them a bit, maybe wear them out over our 15-lap race, especially with track temp being up at 45 degrees Celsius as it is currently. Pfeiffer's will be first driver set lap time. 1:39.8 is the benchmark, but as we can see, Basson with a purple final sector has gone a second quicker. But Tolson trying to impress with purple middle sector falls just under 3/10 short, and Mike Pfeiffer's, the younger brother of the Pfeiffer's family, did set a lap, but it doesn't seem to have been valid.
Some more cars coming to the line. Charlie Morgan now sees a checkered, well, not a checkered flag, sees a start finish line, should I say. 141.6 is not good enough. I think he might have actually invalidated that lap, but Tillotson gets up into 6th position now, obtaining a 141.8. Dave Woods, good lap from him, up to 3rd in the AMS as it stands, and the pole sitter Wayne Basson going purple in the first sector very briefly. However, we just cut away from him. He's just having to spin. How very annoying. You don't get to see him do that. As Basson was on a purple first sector. I can't quite figure out who's beating him. It's not quite on our timing screens as it stands. It will rotate through the cars as they are setting a lap. So there's good odds 7 or 8 cars currently setting a lap. So and you can see the top 4 as it stands. But let Williams come to line, Tomlinson come to line, we'll be able to get a couple more cars on the bottom of the screen and see what sector times are happening. Basson, however, was purple middle sector. The final lap has been beaten by someone who is on a lap behind him. It goes down through the final turn. Downhill left-hander. Be wise to put your foot down as soon as you can, but not too early, otherwise you're going to run wide and invalidate lap on the exit of the curb. Comes to the line. Basson is going to be not an improvement, but it is an improvement for Wayne Basson. I do stand corrected. Bottleston comes to the line. We just await a brief delay. He stays second, does Bottleston, who had that purple sector, and is starting to beat Basson a little bit. Pfeiffer's has a purple first sector. Can't improve, however, but Ben Holmes goes to second.
Yeah, it's second lap now that Mike Pfeiffer's has invalidated. Still has a little over 4 minutes to get a lap in. But yeah, is showing pace. Just needs to keep the car on the track. Looking at Matt Simo going through turns 1, 2 and 3 now. Currently just 4.5 tenths off the top time. Not too far away. Coming up to line now, Charlie Morgan. First valid lap here potentially, but doesn't look like it's been a good lap. Has maybe had actually, yeah, we went for a spin on that lap. We just saw the start of it before we cut away. But yeah, hopefully that hasn't damaged the tyres too much. Now looking at Terry Williams, who another driver yet to set a valid lap time into the final sector now, so is improving. Has a car right behind them, that is. Trying to see, that is Dan Tomlinson, I think, right behind, who's getting a bit of traffic. Is going to try and complete this lap rather than backing off and going for the next lap. We'll get a good slipstream run up to the start finish line with the high downforce settings that these drivers are running for all the high speed corners that this track has. Slipstream going to be very important if you can get it timed perfectly. Terry Williams pulls off, and that helps Dan Tomlinson slipstream to start his next lap. He's up into P5. Will he be able to improve on what would be his penultimate lap? Seeing more times come in, but Tolston's up to P4. Mike Pfeiffer's finally getting a valid lap in. Goes straight to the top of the board. 137.6 is the new benchmark. We'll see how many pro drivers he might be able to beat when they come out later on in session.
Indeed.
Matt Simo improving to 38.5, but it's been bumped now to P5 with Botolfson and Mike Pfeiffer's improving.
Cars going to the line as well. Tillotson doesn't look to be improving. It's 10th. Will they improve? They don't improve. It's actually a better time, just not a change in position. Dave Wood remains 7th as well. Next one to see the line, Charlie Morgan, yet to settle that time. Is he going to be able to do so this time round? He doesn't do. Good enough for 9th position. Derek Page again next to the line. There's a camera just goes a bit wonky there as he snaps back to Derek Page running across the line and does set a bad lap time. First lap time on the board. They'll have one more shot at having an improvement. P6 Dan Tomlinson currently coming through the middle sector, personal best. First sector does not improve on the middle sector as he comes through the third and final sector, with Terry J. Williams not too far ahead of him, or behind him, should I say.
Yeah, Dan Tomlinson's lost 3 tenths in the middle sector compared to his personal best. So that slipstream at the start, they go off Terry Williams' starting lap, maybe hasn't been too fruitful. We are getting a few laps into the session. Tyres may be dropping off in performance, but across line now for Dan Tomlinson. Is it an improvement? It is, but just misses out by 15 thousandths of a second to taking P5 from Simo. Dennis Pfeiffer's improves, but not enough to gain 8 positions. And Botolfson improves, gets himself up to P3. Simo on a lap isn't improving on sectors, though Ben Holmes in the background is improving on their personal best. So as they come across the line, they don't need much time to get themselves back into top three.
Oh.
It will be up to P2, 10th and a half off the top time for Ben Holmes, and that is where they're going to call their session. Hopefully for them, they can hold that position as Craig Tillotson comes across the line and will get within 2 seconds of Micah Pfeiffer's time, and that's good enough for P10. Now, Dave Wade just crossing the line, waiting to see the lap time that wasn't valid. And he has started one final lap, so see if he can get a little bit closer to Dan Tomlinson in front. Charlie Morgan finishing a lap, but not improving in any of the sectors, will be starting P9, but does have time for one final lap. Final laps in here for our drivers. You can see how hard Dan Tomlinson is pushing once again, finding time in the first sector, going even quicker, but losing 0.2 this time in the middle sector. Not as badly. It is a better lap than last time, but is it enough to get into the top 5? As reminder, only needs 15 thousandths of a second, but they've not found it. They will pull to pit lane, practicing a little pit entry that hopefully Dan Tomlinson won't need to perform this race. Final drivers then across the line, Dennis Pfeiffers and Wayne Basson. Basson improves their time, but it's not good enough to improve on the P3. Might be enough, though, to just beat out one of the pro drivers, and Dave Wade pulls over on their final lap. That is the end of the first half, and thus the sort of AM session of qualifying. It is now time for the pro drivers to make their way onto the track and see how they do battle with each other. And for some of them, they'll just be wanting to make sure they're in front of all the AM drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first car on a lap out of these guys, if I'm looking at the track map correctly, should be... Staples, never mind! Oh dear. That's going to be a quick return to the pit for Philip Staples. It was about to start a lap, I think, but it's not going to help his cause at all. And Avon Bloomquist goes off in sympathy on the outlaps. They're pushing a little bit too hard.
We promise these are the pro class drivers that you're saying on track, not the ambulance. We promise you. Yeah, Biv, curse of not necessarily the commentator, but the camera, whoever switched to, ending up finding the barrier. So yeah, Philip Staples was the first on track, also first to meet the barrier. So instead, it will be Luca Monroe, I think, is going to be the first to start a lap time, as they've just crossed the line. Coming up to T1, let's see how their first attempt will go after taking victory versus in our second race last week. I'll be hoping for a good qualifying session here.
Absolutely indeed. So, it will be Monroe. Aidan Carter, for whatever reason, as registered lap time wasn't valid. That'll clear, and we'll see those start times come up on, or quality times come up on the bottom of the screen. 4 drivers we're tracking at the minute: Monroe, Hobbs, oh god, Sander, I'm going to skip that last name, apologies, car 23, and Aidan Carter, all on laps as it stands, with a couple of other cars also taken to the circuit as well, so they'll be on their out laps, and we'll start their laps very shortly. We'll stick with Luca Monroe as he goes personal best first sector. It's not enough to challenge for the pole position time as it stands. We'll see what the second sector's like. It is a green sector, quick but not quick enough, and Pfeiffer's this time at the moment to go through the final sector. Sander also struggling. Carter, personal best first sector, but not going to be good enough for pole as it stands.
Yeah, all the drivers saying personal bests on their first flying lap, but needing another lap maybe for temperature in the tyres to go for purple. Currently, of our pro drivers, it's Aidan Carter who's quickest in the first sector. But it's going to be Monroe that's first to complete a lap time. Benchmark then for the pro drivers, it's 1:38.8 on the first flying laps. 1.2 seconds off the top. Let's see as Hobbs comes through. It looks like their lap wasn't valid. Sanders only 8 tenths off up to P5 in between the AM drivers, but gets beat by Aidan Carter, who takes that 5th position. Of course, expect all drivers to improve on their second lap. Sardove coming up to the line now. Not particularly quick opening lap, 3.3 seconds off Mike Pfeiffer's benchmark, but maybe just saving a little bit of tyre life for the second and third laps. Philip Staples, of course, had that crash on their out lap, is a little bit behind all the other drivers. Is setting of course, personal best for their first flying lap. Luca Munro, interestingly, not improving in the first sector on their second flying lap here.
Interesting. That's an interesting flip for the AM drivers to be on top instead of the pro drivers. We are a bit heavy tonight, but nonetheless, everyone getting stuck in to get their lap sorted. But I'm just surprised we're not seeing as many purple sectors as I thought I would. Well,
yeah, not seeing any purple sectors from the pro drivers just yet. I think Aidan Carter is actually taking the purple first sector. Philip Staples puts their first time in. It's 2 seconds off the benchmark. But we're looking at Aidan Carter now, who's coming through the final sector. As Monroe Blomqvist put times in. Sander goes to top of the timesheets, a 1:37.5. That is the first benchmark we can see here with Aidan. Purple first sector, personal best in the middle sector. Is it enough to take provisional pole? It will not be, as the lap not valid. So Ian Carter will have to go once again. Hobbs putting themselves 0.005 of a second in front of Carter. Of course, all drivers still improving. Sarah Dove going up to 15th place, 1.7 seconds off. And all drivers going for another lap. As a reminder, when we hit the 20-minute mark, the session will immediately end. The drivers will not get to complete a final qualifying lap. A little bit harsh on them compared to the AM drivers, but they are in the pro class. They should be able to get a lap in. Track limits maybe making it a little bit more difficult here, but no excuses for them. As we're looking to Munro, 2 personal best sectors as they currently sit bottom of the top 10, nearly a second off the benchmark pace of the session so far. Just 1 corner to go now. The long final left-hander. You can see in the background quite a few cars quite close together behind. But as they head through final corner, looks like Elvin Blomqvist might have bailed from their from this qualifying lap, and we'll go for one more. But Luca Munro now across the line. Can they improve on a P10 position? They improve just over a tenth. It is only P8 though. Hobbs improves up to P4 now, despite not improving in the middle sector. Sander goes even quicker, extends over 2 tenths ahead of Mike Pfeiffer's in the lead. But can Aidan Carr go quicker? Yes, they can. Just over a tenth clear of Sander. A 1:37.266 is the new benchmark. Sardove coming up to the line, currently in 15th place. Can they get themselves in front of a few more of the AM drivers? Wait for the time up to 13th now overall, just missing out on a sub 1:39. And now with not much time remaining on the clock, this will be all of I think might be all of the drivers' final flying lap.
It will be, absolutely. That timer stays at 20 minutes. It forces everyone back to the garage. Can't finish a lap. Not like the real qualifying, unfortunately. But we'll see these guys on their final attempts. Monroe, personal bests. He's got 1.1 seconds to find. He's still down on the best lap, but this could see him back further up into the top 10. It's currently 1.1 seconds down on the pole position time. Going through the final sector now as we speak. Last corner, swooping downhill. Left-hander. It eventually ends, and you can get back onto the power, use up a subtle amount of curb. Not running too wide to invalidate. It comes to the line. P8, what will that turn into? It'll turn into P7.
Up 1 place. Same can be said for Hobbs. Improves up to 4th place. Blomqvist gets 2 places up into the top 10 for them, taking P9. Aidan Carter, all right, top of the timesheets, is not improving in either the first or middle sector. He's actually a fair amount off, so this will be the end of Ian Carter's session, but they do complete lap just for namesakes. As see, car spinning here. That is 23 of Sander. Trying to figure out where this is on the track, but either way.
Final sector. No, it's the start of the lap.
Start of the lap, so going on for another lap. Yeah, their last lap, 137.5, so it was just over a tenth slower than their current best. But yeah, Luca Monroe, the only driver that has a chance of completing this final lap, running a bit wide there through turn 11, and will decide not to finish. Seems like a lot of the other drivers trying to finish, but might just run out of time. Less than 30 seconds here on the clock. Drivers very close to it's touch and go here, in fairness, for a couple of them. You can see Sarah Dove has found the wall.
Suspension damage.
Yep. And is going to also take the car off the track, saving the marshals a bit of time. But time is just about to run out as some of the drivers are coming up to the line. Time runs out, and unfortunately, none of them will get their final lap in.
Oh dear. Well, that is qualifying done and dusted. We have our grid for the first race of 2 this evening. I want to go to the grid now. It is Aidan Carter pole, Sander second. There we go. My mind just had a bit of a freezer. Piper's third, Hobbs fourth, Ben Holmes fifth, Basson sixth, Monroe seventh, Bottleson in eighth, Brinquist ninth, Matt Simo in 10th, 11th, Tomlinson, Wood in 12th, 13th is Dove, Piper's 14th, Morgan 15th, Tillotson 16th, Staples 17th, Watson 18th, Williams 19th, and Jarrett Page in the final 20th position slot. Cool. And now we wait for the car state to grid and we'll get racing.
Yep, 20 of cars ready to barrel their way up into turn 1. Our most open turn 1 of the season so far, our sort of pre-season race at Spa. Of course, the source very tight. Fuji turn 1 fairly tight as well. Both of them had their moments, but much more open here through the long right-hander. Should hopefully save us from any incident through turn 1 that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Just waiting for one more driver to grid up, and then we'll get underway for our first of 2 races this evening. As a reminder, it will go to either 15 laps or 30 minutes, whichever comes first. The track also still getting a little bit warmer, up to 47 degrees now. The tires may drop off. We may see some mistakes later on in the race. All of our cars are lined up now. The lights are coming on. The engine revs will rise. And we're away here for the first race of the evening. Not a great getaway from P4 for Hobbs. They're dropping down the order already as I head to turn 1. Good start from Sander. They've already taken the lead, and Aidan Carter's dropping through field. Mike Pfeiffer's trying to lick to the inside of Carter. He's going to send it round outside. Lost the rear end for Sander, and Aidan Carter unfortunately collected our front row starters already in the gravel at T1.
Contact in the background as well. Tillotson, there's 4 cars with meatball flags who need to return to the pit lane. As Wood, Tomlinson, Tillotson, Morgan all having terminal damage at the start of this race. We will try and get a replay of that as soon as we can, as the leaders are now away into the second sector. Pfeiffer's leads them. We've had another spinner, Sander having a spin, and that's damage as well, with no rear wing, driving away absolutely fine now, but that's going to be another car going to have a meatball flag, I'm sure, as we see now another car off, and that is Williams.
Drivers struggling with the colder tires, maybe pushing a little bit too hard for positions at the early stage of the race, but it does leave. Mike Pfeiffer's from 3rd on the grid has now taken the lead. Luca Monroe up 5 places to 2nd place. Ben Holmes taking 3rd. Elvin Blomqvist into 4th. Hobbs, even with the cars in front of them having issues, down to 7th position, 3 places from where they qualified. But yeah, a bit of a long race. Aiden Carter down in 12th place. Hopefully they don't have too much damage. They did get into the back of Sanders. They spun off into the gravel. So hopefully they're able to make their way back through the field here. Can see Basson looking for a move on Elvin Blomqvist, looking to take P4. It's good. Get that move done well before the braking zone with the slipstream. And into T1. Blomqvist looking to come back a little bit. Braking zone just a little bit too short, but Tolfson running a little bit wide in the background, was thinking if they could get involved in that battle as well. As we see a number of cars coming into the pits, those with the meatball flag, they'll use their quick repair, get themselves back on track and see if they can salvage anything from the remaining 14 laps. Can see Batolfson all over the back of Blomqvist, who looks to be maybe a little bit nervous, isn't quite keeping up with the cars in front, and is being a bit of a bottleneck. As in the background, Matt Simo has gone off for a little adventure onto the gravel through the fast left-hander of turn 7.
We're going to try and get a replay of what happened at the start of this race. We're following Dan Tomlinson. You see him in the middle of the screens in the oNiD car without, it's the colourless rim. As he goes down the inside turn 1, it's contact, and that's what caused the crash at turn 1. One of the cars actually going airborne, but managing to land back on its wheels again. That was Charlie Morgan. That's how the events unfolded on turn 1. And then, of course, Dan Tomlinson, no rear wing. The car's obviously going to go around, and he's returned back to the pits.
Yes, so Dan took a risk putting the nose up the inside of T1. And while it's not too tight of a corner, cars do come down for an apex eventually, and Dan Tomlinson met the rear right rail of, couldn't quite tell who that was. But yeah, and then Charlie Morgan, just wrong place, wrong time. Luca Munro saying the fastest lap of the race, just over half a tenth quicker than Mike Pfeiffer's in the lead. Have to fight through the dirty air coming off the back of these single-seaters, which is of course helpful down the start-finish straight long, by a kilometre long, I believe. Lost slipstreaming opportunity with the high downforce that these cars are running in around this high-speed circuit. But of course it is detrimental through these high-speed corners where the car's just not going to turn in as much, and you can see the gap has opened up over a second now through the last couple of sectors, and Runar Batolfson has found themselves off track. I wonder if they've gone for a similar spin to what we've seen from Matt Simo not too long ago. They're rejoining the track, and yes, it is the exact same corner. Let's say it from the replay here. They lost the rear end, just had a little twitch and overcorrected it very late on in the corner as they got to the curb. So yeah, quite an odd one there, but luckily they'll avoid any damage, excluding that done to the tyres. Philip Staples losing place to Elvin Blomqvist, who really is struggling this race, now down to P7, having been as high as P4 a couple of laps ago, and now trying to fight off Philip Staples, who is also fighting. Aiden Carter coming back through the field, who's now got themselves up to P8 after that disastrous T1 with Sanders.
Number 8 also for race 2, got to bear in mind the finishing positions here. Top 10 reverse grid. So currently Dove sitting in the perfect place for pole position for the second race. However, we'll stick with this battle. It's Aiden Carter going down the middle of both drivers here, and almost making it too wide. Gets the move done. As there's a car around, and that is Pfeiffer's with Basson.
So Dennis Pfeiffer's returning to the pits. Basson crawling back. He's going to have to pit anyway to repair the damage. The meatball flag has come up, unfortunately for them. Another coming together. They too will tow to the pit lane. This is what happens side by side into T1. Basson on the outside, and this is with Ben Holmes, I believe. Basson getting spun around, stuck in the middle of the circuit, tries to clear out of the way, but then just sort of running wider in the corner was Dennis Pfeiffer's, unable to avoid it, unfortunately, and that has taken both of them back to pit lane.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That's not good to see, but they will continue nonetheless, I'm sure. That's going to hurt their race, absolutely. No question about it. Cool. So, 6.5 minutes
Eventful.
down. Yeah, very much so. And we've still got another 24 minutes left in this race. Piper's holding it off for now in that all-white branded HSBC liveried car. Other banks and building societies are available. Branding, yay. As Piper's gets fast service, it promptly Buton there, but actually Aidan Carter down in P5, who's not that far away from the cars ahead of him.
Carter is definitely in potential of getting a podium finish here. Might be a little bit of a stretch to get into the top two, but we'll have to just keep an eye on how that progress develops. Phelps Staples running a little bit wide over the curb there as they try and catch up to Elvin Blomqvist, who is certainly being the cork in the bottle here. 140.0 from them last lap. To put in perspective, that's 2.2 seconds slower than Aidan Carter just in front. But as we get into this middle sector, the high speed corners, the arrow wash just making it difficult to follow. Phelps Staples falling back a little bit and is allowing Sardove to close in a bit, closing to within half a second. And hopefully for them, they'll be able to use the slipstream that Phelps Staples has fallen out of from Blomqvist in front to make a move into T1. Still a few corners to go before we get there into the long right-hander of turn 12. Slightly different line. Sarah a little bit wider on the entry to the corner, going for a later apex. Then we have the run through the flat-out chicane for the single-seaters. And then it's the final corner. Can Sardove follow closely enough through the long left-hander for the slipstream down start-finish straight? Carry good momentum here. Haven't see gap 4/10 as they come onto the start finish straight, but you can see is already closing and will only close in more and more as they get closer. Slipstream more and more powerful. They will get alongside before T1. They will go to the outside on the racing line as they head into turn 1. How much will Staples fight this on the inside? The camber helps go around the outside, and that'll give them the inside for turn 2. They send it in, and Phelps Staples not quite able to hold it around the outside. Sardove takes P7.
Good stuff indeed in the background. Phelps Staples did have a little bit of an off, was able to gather it back up and is able to keep going once more, but that was a fantastic move through turn 1. Outside line, not often the quickest, but on that occasion, especially with some of these corners being quite fairly well cambered, can sling it around the outside and get a move done like we just saw there for Sarah and Philip.
Yep, and Staples will be trying to stay close enough to get the slipstream back, but again, seems to be struggling in the dirty air. It's fallen over a second back. Meanwhile, someone who isn't waiting for a start-finish line to make a move, Runnar Butolfsson closing in on Tom Watson, though it wasn't quite close enough to make a move. Did force Watson to defend into turn 10. Can see how much braver Butolfsson is being, carrying more speed into the long right-hander of turn 12, taking a tighter exit, trying to get a bit of clean air on the front wing, keep the cornering speed up. Has a run with the slipstream towards final corner. Will Butolfsson go for a move here? No, is going to wait for the start-finish straight. Is staying almighty close through the final corner, and if Sardove was close enough to make a move last lap, then Butolfsson certainly is this time, gaining the momentum as they head towards T1. Which way will Butolfsson go? It looks like it'll have to be the outside as Watson holds the inside line. Can Butolfsson get clear before the braking zone of T1? Won't be able to. Tom Watson just on the inside as they hit the brakes, but we've seen how much braver Butolfsson was last lap on the brakes. They carried that into T1 this time, and that's them up to P9. 7.7 seconds behind Philip Staples. It's going to be difficult to catch in the remaining 8 laps.
Indeed it is. So, I keep on forgetting it's 15 laps or half hour, so whatever one comes first. So I think we're definitely going to hit the lap counter sooner than the 30-minute time limit. But yeah, for now, all looking good. Sarah Dove, however, has had a little bit of an off. It looks like it was a minor off. Does keep going, as Morgan sadly has retired from the race. Or a little bit of battle down the back towards the back end of the grid. Basson making inroads. Oh, his Python goes wide. Earth contact.
Pfeiffer's on the inside, just lost the rear end, and at that point there's nothing they could do to avoid that collision with Basson. The two that came together not too long ago at T1 have come together again, this time at turn 10. What was already going to be a difficult race for both of them, unfortunately, is not getting any better. And there'll be another trip back to pit lane. Basson has already told Pfeiffer's is going to try and drag the car back this time. And yeah, that is... is that Tillotson, I think, getting through?
It is. It will be. They're just a bit further behind.
Oh, sorry, I think that was...
Very similar cars. There's a couple of teammates in there, so it might be one of his teammates for Craig. But nonetheless, unlucky there for Pfeiffer. He goes into pit lane. Staples dropping.
He's had an incident. You can see the front left tyre held above the air. There is significant suspension damage. Pulls over and will be towing it back to pit lane. Let's see what happened to Philip Staples. Was running in P. It got a little bit wide out of turn 3, I think that is. And then that spat them across the circuit into the wall. And deciding that they could not drag that car back to pit lane. A P8 thrown into the wall for Staples. That promotes Bertolson up a place. Tom Watson, Matt Simo into the top 10. Meanwhile, the comeback charge for Aidan Carter after that T1 incident carries on. They finally caught on to the back of Stephen Hobbs and is going to try and take P4 here. They already have the fastest lap by over 3/10 quicker than anyone else. Slipstream now, you can see how powerful Slipstream is. Hobbs opting for the racing line to turn 1, which is on the outside. Aidan Carter on the inside. How much is Hobbs going to fight this? Looks like they're not going to fight this one too hard. Aidan Carter through to P4, and Ben Holmes is right in front of them.
Already catching within a second, so he'll be getting some of the dirty air through this first and middle sector. But if he can keep it on the track and point in the right direction, that slipstream is going to be mighty helpful coming down to the start-finish straight.
Aidan Carter's fastest lap is nearly a second quicker than Ben Holmes' lap, so even with the dirty air, you have to imagine they'll be able to close in a little bit, keep the pressure on wide there for Ben Holmes. You can see they're feeding the pressure, and look how close Aidan Carter is. They're not even going to wait for the start-finish straight to the inside, under braking for turn 10. Ben Holmes runs a little bit wide, and that'll be moved on for Aidan Carter. 4 seconds to try and catch Luca Monroe. They will have just over 6 more laps to do so.
Indeed, now Ben Holmes is looking to fight with Hobbs here for 4th and 5th, and Hobbs looking to try and potentially make a move instant for Jarrett Page, briefly showing up his yellow flag, and he's going to be dropping down the order. He's been in a crash. What's happened to Jarrett? You'll stick with this battle for now. We'll go back to Jarrett in a moment. He's showing his yellow flag. He's had an incident as 4th and 5th. Now coming down the start of finish straight. Ben's got the slipstream from Aidan ahead. Will help him defend here from Hobbs. As eking out a gap ever so slightly. Hobbs will let it go. Dives back to the inside. Later on the brakes potentially. On the outside line, however, with the cambered corner, helps Ben Holmes pull back ahead. And it's still going to be Ben Holmes ahead for 4th as it stands. What's happened to Jarrett Page?
Yeah, so it's Jarrett Page we've seen earlier passing and just runs wide, maybe carrying too much speed in as they come back onto the track, lose rear end of the car, go for a spin round. So yeah, that has not done them any good. But yeah, back to this fight with Ben Holmes and Stephen Hobbs. Hobbs, good run through the final corner, got to the inside of Ben Holmes before they really got onto the straight, but that meant no slipstream for them. Ben Holmes was able to get a distant tow from Carter in front, and that's what allowed him to stay in front as they got to T1. This time though, Ben Holmes won't be getting any slipstream from Carter in front, who is trying to close in. Already closed in more than a second on Luca Monroe, so does have a chance here at P2. But Pfeiffer's has been running a second quicker than Monroe, is pulling clear. Maybe seeing the threat of Carter close in, wants to stretch the advantage and keep that lead safe. We also have Matt Simo closing in on Tom Watson, who made a mistake last lap and could be falling to the bottom of the top 10, which would be, remember, reverse grid pole position for next race. In the slipstream now for Stephen Hobbs, we've seen this 4/10 back should be close enough to get a move into T1, but Ben Holmes, a personal best lap of the race, is just trying to keep that margin and is just far enough in front. Stephen Hobbs will look to the inside, but that line too tight, can't carry the momentum and will fall back a little bit further. And Aidan Carter in their pursuit of second place, a new fastest lap of the race, 37.3. That is 1.1 seconds quicker than Monroe last lap. Meanwhile, here the battle for P9. Matt Simo has got themselves in front and clear of Tom Watson before they get to the braking zone of T1. That is P9 for them. And Dave Wood making a move on Terry Williams for P12 I'm going to assume into turn 10, judging by the timing gaps. That's now P12 for Dave Wood, only 5 seconds back from Sander, who isn't carrying damage, did repair their damage from the opening lap incident, and will be trying to keep clear of Dave Wood.
Yes, absolutely. Hobbs and Holmes still really close together. Aidan makes a very brief mistake by looked on the timing tower, went wide a little bit potentially, triggered a bit of warning, maybe got a couple of tyres into the gravel, hasn't cost him anything, but Hobbs is still trying to find a way past Ben Holmes. Ben Holmes holding him off well, and I say that with some surprise, but genuinely Ben Holmes really putting a good shift in here to keep Hobbs behind for 4th position.
Ben Holmes with the dirty air, the gap's now 8/10 has opened up half a second, nearly half a second quicker. Another personal best lap for Ben Holmes. Starting to show a bit of pace. Elvin Blomqvist too, going a little bit quicker than both of them, maybe showing a bit of pace late on in this race. But the camera curse strikes once again. Ben Holmes getting a twitch on the exit of T1 and manages to save the car from spinning, from hitting the barrier, but recovering will still cost them time. They fall down to P6, giving, I think that was Elvin Blomqvist, a bit of a scare as they come back on. I must say that was well held from taking that car to the barrier. They're making sure not to run into Blomqvist as they drive past. But unfortunately, what was looking like a good defence from Ben Holmes and starting to build out of a gap to Stephen Hobbs once again, has unfortunately ended up dropping to P6 and coming under pressure now from Sarah Dove, yes, who's looking to improve upon their current P7.
Indeed, salt to wound if there ever was such a thing. I think he just took too much speed and the rear tyres didn't like it. It didn't get on the curb. The slide was happening mid-corner or mid-exit. I think he just took a bit too much speed and floored the throttle basically a bit too soon.
At 275 horsepower doesn't sound like a lot, but these i3 engines are turbocharged, and so maybe just the turbo lag playing a part in that spin, that sort of struggle for traction. Yeah, we'll have to see. Little lag moment there for Aidan Carter. Don't worry too much about that. But you can see it's closed up another 1.1 seconds. However, their previous lap, their lap 11, was definitely a little bit slower with the mistake on it, as they're still 1.9 seconds back. Expected them to be a little bit closer if they've been closing in at 1.1 seconds a lap. Time is running out. 3 laps to go. It's looking a bit tight here for if Carter can take the second place after that turn 1 incident. But we're watching this battle. Sarah Dove trying to close in on Ben Holmes, who made that mistake last lap. So a new personal best for them, did Dove. So they're pushing on with that target in sight now. Can they fight through the dirty air, through the middle sector to be close enough for the slipstream run on the start-finish straight? Only time will tell. A little bit wide again for Ben Holmes, certainly flirting with the gravel on the outside of turn 8 there. But it's just managing to keep it out of the gravel for now. Will we see him push a little bit too hard? Maybe if Sarah Dove closes a little bit more, puts a little bit more pressure. Will Ben Holmes make another mistake, or will they be able to hold on to what will ultimately be a bit of a disappointing P6 at this stage?
Yes, absolutely. So we'll see very much what could have been there for Ben, unfortunately, but he's holding on to that position. We're now going to go on to the final lap on this. No, actually, no, this is penultimate lap 14, as do stand corrected. Penultimate lap of this first race. This lap and one more to go, and then we'll be seeing the checkered flag for all our drivers. Now, remember, folks, we can now look at the standings. Top 10 reverse. Tom Watson currently sitting happy in 10th position with a good gap between him and the two cars ahead and behind him. He's got a nice cushion, nice buffer of time to hold that 10th position, which will mean he starts on pole for our second race this evening. It'll be Simo Bottleson, Dove Holmes, Bloomquist, Hobbs, Carter, Monroe, Pipers will be your top 10 qualifying, or top 10 starters for the next race.
Sardov has made a mistake after setting a personal best lap last time around in their pursuit of Ben Holmes. It will not be a potential P6 for them. Luckily for them, the gap to Bertolfsson was over 20 seconds. And so they will get going again, still in P7. But here's what happened on board with Sardov through left-hander, turn 4, through turn 5, just losing the rear end on turn in. Kart not quite stable enough, and then will eventually get going. Luckily, no damage done for them, and only a lap and a half to go. Plenty of bit of a gap in front, still a bit of a gap behind. It's not too big now, though. Should be able to get home safely in P7. Sander, who's just outside of the top 10, having a moment here through turn 1, just losing the rear end in a similar manner to how they lost it in T1 with the lead of the race. It's been certainly a disappointing first race, and will have to be a bit of a fight back for them in second race. Meanwhile, Jack PH is taking another little trip into the gravel this time. This is at turn 2, and is making sure to rejoin safely after turn 3. Just turned in, maybe I thought locked the tyre, but yeah, just front end not really gripping up, sliding off into the gravel as our leaders now on to the final lap, and Aidan Carter is not done chasing for P2. They've left it right to the final lap as Luca Monroe has been pushing that little bit harder, trying to hold on whatever gap they can. Slipstream run to the start-finish line isn't... there is an opportunity there as the timing line is at the end of pit lane, but of course you only get about half of the straight that you normally do. It is only a few corners to go now for Aidan Carter. Can they snatch a P2 in the final sector, or will Luca Monroe hold on to take second place? A little bit wider, kicking a bit of grass for Aidan Carter. That'll drop them slightly further back and aid Luca Monroe in holding second position, but we'll look out to our leader. Mike Pfeiffer's not even in the pro class. One of our AM class drivers started third on the grid, avoided the incident at T1, and will have good pace to hold on to P1. Luca Monroe will hold on to P2 as Aidan Carter just not quite enough pace, not enough consistency in the final 5 laps to close up on Monroe, but will take a podium, which is quite decent given how their turn 1 went. Stephen Hobbs will take a P4, which is nice to get back to recover to after a disappointing getaway off the line. Alvin Blomqvist will take P5. Ben Holmes P6, that late mistake costing them a couple of positions. And Sarah Dove will take P7, getting away with that final mistake, not costing them any positions. But Thompson takes P8 with Matt Simo in P9. He'll start on the front row for the next race behind Tom Watson, who will be taking our reverse grid pole position, being in 10th position.
That'll be said, as you said, reverse grid top 10 pole position to Tom going into race 2, and anyone behind him down 11th downwards, unfortunately, that's their starting position for the final race.
Yeah, so Sander are starting from second on the grid, took the lead into T1, losing the rear end though and having that incident with Ian Carter. would only finish P11. Dave would recover to P12 after their incident on lap 1. Terry Williams up to 13th place. Jared Page taking 14th. Dan Tomlinson, a couple of mistakes that race, would be 15th, with Philip Staples in 16th. Charlie Morgan in 17th. Dennis Pfeiffer's in 19th position, with Craig Tillotson taking P18 and Wayne Basson taking the last place in 20th. Difficult race for those bottom 6 finishers on the timing sheets. Incidents, mistakes into the wall, they'll leave them a bit further back in a difficult race coming up in the second reverse grid race.
Your finishing results there, it's, oh. Is that right? That is right, ignore me. Pfeiffer's taking a win in P1. Monroe, Carter, Hobbs, Bloomquist, Holmes, Dove, Bottleson, Simo, Watson, your top 10, as we said. Flip that on its head for your starting grid. For the top 10 reverse grid for the second race this evening. Watson will lead us away from Simo, Bottleson, Dove, Holmes, Bloomquist, Hobbs, Carter, Monroe, and Pfeiffer's. A big deep breath there, so much out of breath. However, Sander, should I say, in 11th, Wood 12th, Williams 13th, Page 14th, Tomlinson 15th, Staples, Morgan, Tillotson 16th, 17th, and 18th. And then we go down to the other Pipers. Dennis Pipers had a torrid race, and Basson down in 20th. It's P3. Sorry, I stand corrected. I do ignore me. I was looking at the wrong screen, looking at the wrong results. I was about to say Mike Piper's version P3 is just a third car on my grid. You do ignore me. It's fine. I know what I'm doing. Perfectly competent streamer. But yes, it's Piper's. It's definitely a story of 2 different types there for the 2 Piper brothers. But one of them finishes on top of the one of them finishes way down the order.
Certainly, you had those that stayed out of trouble and took advantage of those. Quite a few drivers falling into strife in that first race. It'll be interesting to see with the reverse grid how turn 1 goes. Generally, it's been the reverse grid races have thrown up a little bit more action, shall we say. And well, turn 1 in after a normal qualifying threw up quite a bit of action. So we'll have to see what it holds in store for us. But yeah, the drivers now have a 10-minute warm-up session to run some laps. Maybe if they were running a bit of damage in the first race, they want to recalibrate themselves to a repaired, a standard car. Maybe a little bit of practice on cold tires. We've seen a couple of drivers struggle with them on the opening lap of last race. Or just run a bit of a longer run at 10 minutes. You can get about 5 or so laps in. But currently, of the drivers sitting in pit lane, none of them taking the opportunity as of yet. Or maybe there's one car, that's Dan Tomlinson, going out for a couple of laps. But yeah, could be a vital time for the drivers if they want to use it. But yeah, very few opting to do so.
Indeed, we shall see as Tomlinson likes to go to the circuit. And have something to watch. Oh, okay, he goes to the circuit and then probably decides to try and go Tokyo drifting.
Promptly showing us what not to do in T1
Yes.
of the upcoming race. Better to do it now than when we get to the race. Dan Thompson being followed by Ben Holmes here, who is also going to take on some laps and hopefully to a little bit more success than Dan Tomlinson. But yes, could be some crucial practice after that mistake towards the end that cost a potential P4 for Ben Holmes. And I'll be looking not to repeat that. And so this practice may be a bit valuable. Of course, the one thing they won't be able to get to practice in this 10-minute warm-up session is sort of how the tyres maybe evolve later on in the race in the final 5 laps. How they might go off to an extent with track temp up at over 46 degrees Celsius. Fairly hot. The tires will be overheating through the long high-speed corners. And yeah, tires could be a bit of a struggle. Maybe that's why I've seen those few mistakes that we did in the later part of last race.
Yes, indeed. Let's see what happens with another 5 or so minutes to go until the second race is all gridded up for. Just gonna bide our time a little bit now. Let's see if I can drag anyone in. And try and get someone over from the voice chat. I don't think I'll be able to, annoyingly. But oh, can I? Can I? No, I can't. Ah, I can't do it. Oh well, that's a shame. We will just hang it out for now. It'd be nice if anyone wants to come in to have a quick chat with us in the comms booth, if anyone is listening in, who has the admin abilities that we you need to get into where you need to go. But yeah, just wait for that final 5 minutes. What big question really though is those on the outer position, especially Simo, who finished in 11th, who was one of our front runners, if I recall correctly, will be starting 11th this race.
Is it not Sander?
Sander, I do stand corrected. Sander, I should say. He was one of our front runners. Will be fighting away with Aidan Carter because he's only going to be about 4 grid positions ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when you're starting on the front row of the grid, taking the lead into T1, you're really thinking what could have been in that first race for Sander, who has been the third driver now to come out onto the track to run some laps, and can see sliding around on those cold tires, trying to get a bit of temperature into them, perhaps, before they go for a little bit of a stint here in the remaining 3.5 minutes. But yeah, they'll be hoping to get a good result here to make up for that disappointing 11th place. And it's not going to be easy. They're going to have some quick drivers in front of them, but you never know it. You know, whereas we started seeing with Carter in that previous race, who was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Same for Charlie Morgan, who got caught up at T1. You know, maybe Sander might find themselves right place, right time, and be one of those drivers, you know, we say after that one, oh, has made up 5 places, and, you know, can then make their way up and take a potential win. Anything is on the table for this upcoming race. But the important thing will be staying out of any drama that unfolds, keeping it clean, and yeah, try and get a better start than what Stephen Hobbs did. It'll be interesting to see if they can have a better launch. You know, they dropped a few positions and sort of struggled through the opening lap. Interesting to see if they're able to hold on a bit more to the position, you know, especially being a little further back. They're going to be in P7 now, having taken 4th place in that first race. You know, losing a few more positions, they could find themselves outside of the top 10 if they have a similar start as the first race.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens. Only 2 cars. Only 2 owned cars out in a minute on circuit. It feels like I'm incredibly biased. It's the only 2 cars who can actually show you doing anything. But Van Hound and Tomlinson just getting those laps in just to reaffirm themselves with the circuit. Only a couple more minutes to go. As we speaking about Hobbs, he's now coming out on circuit as well for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll only get time for 1 lap in. Feeling those cold tires. But any practice could be useful, especially after having just mentioning such a weak lap 1. You know, just understanding the cold tire a little bit more, knowing sort of where the limit is for a little bit more. You know, maybe Hobbs, maybe a little bit too cautious in the first race. Can be a little bit more aggressive now and try and hold on to a few more positions. We'll have to wait and see, but it's not too long. We'll be a couple of minutes before we get underway for our second race of the evening. Once again, either 15 laps or 30 minutes, whichever comes first. As you can see, Hobbs just pushing a little bit, running a little bit wide through turn 7, but getting to know the limits of the Super Formula Light car.
Absolutely right. Oh, that's an interesting view. Might try that for the race start, actually. We'll get a good blimp start of the race. Only about 30 seconds to go before all the cars will come back into the pit lane and will be prompted to start ridding up for the race. Remember, folks, we said that top 10 reverse grid. You expect to see some names that were quickest in the last race start in the lower part of the top 10, and potentially in the midfield will have to fight their way through. But we shall see how that all plays out. 10 seconds to go, and then we'll go to the start grid for race number 2.
It'll be interesting to see how this race unfolds. Can Aidan Carter take their first win of the series? They were on for one last week at Fuji, but a mistake put them into the barrier and wiped any chance away. Can Luca Monroe take a win this week? He won the second race last week at Fuji. Can he go back-to-back reverse grid victories? As we get ready here is the grid for second race of the evening.
Tom Watson taking pole for the reverse top 10. It's Massimo Bottleson, Dove, Holmes, Bloomquist, Hobbs, Carter, Monroe, Pifers. Your reverse top 10 grid from the previous race. It's Sander Wood. And then Williams, Page, Tomlinson, Staples, Morgan, Tillotson, Pifers, and Basson. Your top 20, or full grid of 20 cars actually for race 1. We are going to go to the grid. The lights are now going to come on ever so shortly as the blimp we will go to for the race start. We're briefly blocked by the paddock, but we are racing. And we are away. It looks like Max Zimmer gets away well. Tom Watson dropping to second with Bottleson doing the challenge for third. Background, fourth and fifth. Sarah Dub and Holmes each at side by side. Carter, Bloomquist fighting away. There is moves happening in the background as Monroe is trying to fight through as well. And for now, it looks like it's been quite the clean first corner. Up ahead, there's contact! And that's Ben Holmes around.
Ben Holmes with Elvin Blomqvist getting together. That's another oNiD car. That's Dan Tomlinson off into the gravel once again on the opening lap. Ben Holmes is going to have to take a trip through pit lane. Luca Monroe and Stephen Hobbs getting together through the second Sir Chicane turns 4 and 5, and they drop down the order. Meanwhile, up at the front, Aidan Carter already up into P3, up 5 places so far. Philip Staples taking advantage of all the chaos. They're up into 8th place, up 8 places. Jar Page has had a mistake all by themselves, I think, as Dave Wood drops down to P10. Fighting here on the opening lap, side by side. Dave on the outside, Pifers on the inside. We've seen how badly this ended between Pifers and it was... Am I not remembering the name? Basson on the previous race, but this time getting through cleanly. Dave Wood back up to P9. Meanwhile, further up the field, Aidan Carter already trying to attack Matt Simo for P2. Will be trying to get a good exit, but Mike Pifers trying to make a move on Tom Watson through the final corner. You can see in the background on the inside, but Tom Watson is going to carry the momentum round the outside, and no slipstream here for Pifers. They'll tuck back in and try and make a move into T1, but so will Aidan Carter. Can see Aidan Carter on the outside as they go into T1 on Simo. Will be late on the brake. Simo not fighting that one too hard. Carter can tuck in for the apex. Pifers on the inside of Tom Watson will take P4, and running out wide there is Sander. We said is looking to try and have a good result in the second race. Has made up a few places into 8th place, but not as much progress as their sort of rivals, you could say, here currently sitting in 2nd and 4th. Luca Monroe, of course, having a devastating, disappointing start to this race, down in 15th place. Go to Sarah Dove, who is on the back of Tom Watson, trying to follow through as Mike Pifers has already turned their attention to Simo in front to try and take P3. Try not let Carter get too far up the road. Which of these two will be first to make a move into turn 10? Can see how much Piper's closing up us to make sure not to run into the back of Simo in front. Doesn't want to get a penalty, which could scupper any chances of taking a win here. Can see different lines, tighter line for Piper's, trying to get cleaner on that front wing, get some downforce and grip to carry the speed through the long right-hander. Now through the little bit of a chicane, won't make a move into the final corner, but is set up perfectly for a slipstream run down, start finish straight, and to make a move into T1.
Well, indeed, Pfeiffer's is able to tuck into that slipstream behind them. Dove and Watson both fighting away into the final turn as well, and it looks like Dove may have a run on Watson here. Bottleson fastest up, immediately picked by Carter by a good 2 seconds, and the lead battle is getting quite close as well. Half a second between first and second, with battles up and down the grid forming. Tell me where to look.
Still on the inside is Watson, but they're going back out of that one as Mike Pfeiffer's and
Simo,
yeah, have come together. Pfeiffer's already back to the pits, but an instant between the two of them fighting over second place.
Oh, it's a touch. Oh, that's car rolling.
Yeah, Pfeiffer's just stuck the nose up the inside on a gap that was going to close, and then as Simo spun, Pfeiffer's collected the rear wheel, which sent the car up into a barrel roll. Unfortunately, it has brought Pfeiffer's into the pits. We'll have to wait on the tow time. Meanwhile, Aidan Carter in second place, challenging for the lead, is looking to the inside of turn 12, but Tolson's going to leave the door open, and Aidan Carter into the lead with in less than 3 laps, all the way from 8th on the grid. It's up 7 places with the lead. However, it may not be a done sealed victory. That is what we said this time last week when Carter took the lead in the second race at Fuji. It wasn't much later that they found themselves spinning into the barrier.
Indeed, there's probably a big crash for Staples as well. He returns to pits. How in the world did that happen? The car looked in him like in a million pieces. I think it was a bit of contact. And then... Oh!
Yeah, the tap from Blomqvist just sort of put him a bit wide into the gravel, and a couple of wheels in gravel span the car, spat it into the barrier, and yeah, heavy damage for Staples. They'll have to wait for the tow time, unfortunately for them. Meanwhile, someone who's having a good race here is Dave Wood. In fact, it's been a good race for Dave Wood, Wayne Basson, Charlie Morgan and Dennis Pfeiffer's. If we had a little look at how many positions they've gained, it would go as 7 places for Dave Wood, 14 for Basson, from the back of the grid, remember, for Basson. Great race so far for them. Charlie Morgan up 10 places, and Dennis Pfeiffer's up 11. Now 10 places, with Matt Simo making the move for 7th, and is going to try and make a move soon enough on Charlie Morgan. Much like Dave Wood, sending it down the inside of Tom Watson. Tom leaves the space on the outside. Dave is going to try and hang it around the outside of turn 11. Isn't going to quite stick there into turn 12, where Ian Carter took leave of the race. Dave is going to try and sort of repeat the same move, and it will be pretty much identical move to Carter on the 3rd lap. And Dave Wood now up to P4. Wonder if he'll have the pace to maybe try and chase down Sarah Dove for a potential podium. Tom Watson is going to try and follow Dave Wood as closely as they can before the cars behind maybe close up. As you can see them coming on to start finish line. We'll get a nice bit of slipstream here. As you can see, Aidan Carter already running away at the front of the race. Everyone else just trying to do what they can to stay as close as they can and keep those behind as far back as they possibly can. We just seen, I think, as Mike Pfeiffer's coming out of the pits, having repaired their damage, but unfortunately being a lap down is essentially race over for them. I can see Tom Watson's actually got themselves back in front of Dave Wood, and Dave is going to have to make that move all over again. Terry Williams losing a couple of places, with Ben Holmes fighting away with Luca Monroe down in 14th place. Of course, both them having instants on the opening lap, trying to make the best of a difficult race so far. So that is Dave Wood getting the move done on Tom Watson. Then it was this is Monroe, Ben Holmes and Terry Williams fighting over 14th place, getting very close through the final corner. Ben Holmes hanging around the outside, but Luca Monroe would get that move done in the end. Tom Watson, as we've been looking at those replays, has had an incident, but this was him getting back in front of Dave Wood, but he has since dropped down to P12. We'll try and find out what has happened, but there he is, missing his front wing. He is going to need to come into the pits to repair that, but what on earth has happened to him? Dave Wood has also dropped to P9. Those two had an instant. A look to the inside for Dave Wood at a fast left-hander of turn 7 has sent Tom Watson into the wall. Dave Wood sliding across the gravel, but was a very good race for both of them so far. Joined by Dennis Pfeiffer's joining in the party in the gravel, dropping both of them outside of the top 10. Dave Wood in P9.
It was really, I think it was a connection issue there. He wasn't there, I don't think he really was there. Was Pfeiffer's. He was able to rejoin. It's a very sketchy rejoin as well. Garrett Page also having an issue as well. Around through the first sector he goes. Is it too much on the curb? Yeah, but that is avoid the wall, does he? Oh no. That's enough of a shunt to potentially give him damage there. And he's into the pits. There's Tom Wood as well. Tom Watson, should I say. And breathe for now. There's another battle happening for 30th and 14th. Ben Holmes is trying to get past Luca Monroe. Oh, that was almost a touchdown to start finish straight to go into the braking zone for turn 1. Inside line. Poor Luca will be able to retain, however, around the outside. It comes the inside for turn 2. Does Ben Holmes go? Luca gives some space. They're giving each other space to turn 3 and 3. And Monroe holds position for now.
It may only be for 13th and 14th place, but what a great battle these two are having. These are two that should be in the top 5 of the race. After incidents on that one, they find themselves this far down, but that isn't stopping them from having quite a bit of fun. Luca Monroe now in front will try and pull away through this middle sector as Ben Holmes has to fight through the dirty air. But I can guarantee you Ben Holmes will not be giving up, will be trying to close back in, trying to stay in slipstream range for the start-finish straight. And will try and take the position back. They're also going to try and close in on Blomqvist and Jared Page just in front to get themselves a bit closer to the top 10. You never know what will happen in the rest of the race. We've seen what happened with Dave Wood and Tom Watson. You never know what could happen with the rest of the field. They have spread out a little bit at the moment. Those drivers who have stayed out of trouble, maybe not necessarily the quickest, but surviving the instance, making their way through, might find themselves falling back down the order as the quicker drivers try and make up for what has been a disappointing race so far. Now, down start finish straight on to lap 7. Ben Holmes in the slipstream. We'll have to go to the outside as Luca Monroe holds the inside into turn 1. Ben Holmes is just going to have half a car length in front, though. Isn't going to be so brave on the brakes. Can they use the camber to hold it round the outside? Not quite. They'll have to slot back into line. Luca Monroe holds on to 13th place, and once again we'll try and break the slipstream to prevent Ben Holmes from attacking again next lap around.
Well, I think he will do. If you can keep it there and try and get around the outside of turn 1, if you can hold it, that'll be turn 2 absolutely teed up for him from the inside. Tillotson has dropped a position. He's just been off the track potentially, but nothing showing on my app saying we can get a replay. So, we actually can get a replay of the move itself. Might give us an idea as how Dave Wood got past Tillotson, and yeah, Tillotson just went deep.
It just ran wide at turn 11. Like Dave Wood, who's trying to charge back up after that incident with Tom Watson, is 10.5 seconds behind Dan Tomlinson. That's going to be a difficult gap to close in on. But yeah, I bet Dave Wood ruining that incident with Tom. Tillotson with the slipstream might try and come back here. Dave Wood, but it's not going to be quite close enough. He's going to have a look into T1. But yeah, is not close enough to send it. Meanwhile, a little further back, Blomqvist has now been caught up by Monroe and Ben Holmes. Will be under a lot of pressure. Monroe in the slipstream pulls out as they're only about a quarter of a way down to start finish straight. I have to imagine we'll have the move done before they get to turn 1. And yeah, Ben Holmes, or Blomqvist, sorry, able to tuck back into slipstream, less to attack Munro, but more to defend from Ben Holmes, who is looking as JarPH has spun off on the outside of T1. They're facing the wrong way now, but Ben Holmes just able, or sorry, Blomqvist just able to hold on in front of Ben Holmes, but for how much longer? Pfeiffer's has had a little wide moment, has got slowed down just as Ben Holmes does make the move between turns 3 and 4, and will try and continue to chase down, follow Munro, chase him down, and try and retake P11.
And it looked like Blomqvist went wide through that turn, got a bit of kitty litter up onto the circuit, and the marshals, I'm sure, will be very pleased to go out with their brushes and brush it off circuit once more. Thankfully, we're in the virtual world, there's no such thing, but in the real world, you would have maybe a grumpy marshal dressed it all in orange with his brush saying, I wish we had better brushes at this circuit to sweep the gravel. Not like I'm one of those people, obviously not. But indeed some debris being brought onto the circuit. And it still plays a difference as well in iRacing. It will be simulated, and if you go over it, you can lose grip. But for now, not causing an issue for these guys with these wings, and the downforce should be maybe a bit tricky, I know a bit of a hazard, but can hopefully deal with such a thing as we progress through the race.
I'm trying to look up and down the order, see who's closing in. There's about a second between Charlie Morgan and Matt Simo, both of them running very similar lap times last lap. However, they're being slowly caught by Dan Tomlinson. He was 3/10 quicker last lap, and it's just got to within a second of Charlie Morgan, so we'll have to keep an eye on how that unfolds. Ben Holmes, meanwhile, is once again trying to attack Luca Munro. They're going through the first sector now. Wasn't quite able to get a move done again this lap, as we're now on lap 9, and Ian Carter just starting lap 10. But I can see that dirty air for Ben Holmes just pushing the car wide, and see that gap extend now up to 0.7 of a second. How difficult it is to follow as Ian Carter sets a new fastest lap of the race. They did take the fastest lap in the first race. Remember, that is worth a couple of points in the championship. They'll be looking to take back-to-back fastest laps. Currently, the benchmark a 37.5. Not too many. No one else actually is. Well, apart from Mike Pfeiffer's has set a 37-second lap time, but Pfeiffer's down in 17th after the disastrous lap 1. Coming up to the final corner then, Ben Holmes could not be much closer to the back of Luca Munro. You have to imagine he'll be close enough for a good slipstream run here for a move. Closing up while we're watching this, Dan Tomlinson has made a move on Charlie Morgan. We'll see if we can get a replay of that in a moment when these two have finished their battle, if they will ever finish in this race. It should be said, they go at it once more. Ben Holmes on the outside of T1, Luca Munro on the inside. Will Ben Holmes be a little bit more aggressive? No, it's going to slot back into line, and it's maybe going to try and take the racing line into turn 2. Gets on the curb, turning in for the corner. The car does not like that, and there'll be another spin for Ben Holmes, dropping behind Elvin Blomqvist. We'll have to try and chase them down once again. We've had a few changes of positions in the top 10. We mentioned Dan Tomlinson getting ahead of Charlie Morgan, but Tofson from second place made this mistake. They'll trip across the gravel, and Sarah Dove makes their way into second place. But Tofson just about 2 seconds back now. Will try and close that gap in once more, try and retake P2. Dennis Pfeiffer's has got ahead of Tillotson for P9 as well. Tillotson, 15-second gap to the car behind. This is Charlie Morgan running wide onto the gravel, and that freely lets Dan Tomlinson through for P6 to try and chase down Matt Simo for a top 5 finish. It would mark 10 positions gained if they can do so. And Charlie Morgan has since had more issues. Big spin at turn 7, remember, where Dave Wood and Tom Watson came together. That's promoted Dave Wood up to P7. Charlie Morgan continuing in P8. 2 seconds behind Dave now.
Speaking of, Dave's off the circuit, he's into the wall! That's
heavy crash. Charlie Morgan just able to avoid, but Dave, you will not be going anywhere front left wheel completely torn off the car, heavy suspension damage, and Dave Wood has just binned the car from P7, that was. It was good comeback drive for Dave. Just bounced the apex curb there, pushed the car wide onto the gravel, and then just trying to rejoin circuit. The car spun into the into the right-hand side wall. Heavy impact, as we've seen a couple of times this race. Yeah, pretty much a race-ending collision right there. Aidan Carter, front of the field, that we look at now, saying another fastest lap at 37.290. Extending their lead. It is now nearly 13 seconds after Botolfsen's mistake. Botolfsen losing another 7 tenths, to Sarah Dove that last lap. So it looks like Sarah will be able to hold on to P2 if they don't make any mistakes themselves. Meanwhile, we also have Matt Simo, who was being chased down by Charlie Morgan, Dan Tomlinson, is now also chasing down Wayne Basson in front of them, trying to get themselves up to P4. They gained 4.5 tenths last lap, but they did lose 3 tenths due to Dan Tomlinson. 3 seconds covers those 3 cars.
Indeed, Tom Watson instead a bit further down the order, catching Williams for P13. No points in these positions, I don't believe, but Tomlinson, as we said, catching on Simo as well, 6th and 5th. A couple of battles popping up towards the end of this feature race here this evening, with just about 3 laps to go. Or almost actually 2 laps, as Aidan Carter is about to come to the start-finish line and tick over another lap. But for now, just keep an eye on these battles. Everything's relatively spread out, and people are finding their own speed and pace. It's just a matter of what's going to happen when. Is anyone going to close up with one another for a battle? For now, it doesn't quite look like it. Carter crosses the line. 2 laps to go as we P10. Luca Monroe's had an off. And that's through sector 2, going downhill into turn 7. It is.
Yep. Again, same corner. Tom Watson, Dave Wood had their instantless left-hander. This is where Charlie Morgan binned it. Just gone that inside curb. You could see it unsettle the curb. Ran Luca Monroe wide, but luckily kept the car in a straight line, got it across the gravel, and carries on. It does allow Alvin Blomqvist to close in to 1.5 seconds, but Monroe has had the speed. She'd be able to hold on to top 10 position. Did set a personal best lap last time on the previous lap, so maybe just pushing a little bit too hard. But we now go to Tom Watson, who's on the back of Terry Williams. Trying to figure out that recently a place lost. Was a few tenths slower, nearly half a second slower than Terry Williams. Last lap was Tom Watson, so I think he's just recently been passed. Terry Williams pushing hard right out to the gravel on the exit of turn 11. Can Tom Watson, after being in a good position before that incident with Dave Wood, can he make up 1 place just for a bit of consolidation? I'm sure it will still be a disappointment compared to the 7th place he was in. And Dave Wood, having got back on track after towing back to pit lane, finds themselves facing the wrong way once more. This is out of T1, trying to put the power down, has got put down into turn 2 now. Runs out a bit wide there, and then the car just loses it on the exit of the corner, trying to put the power down. Does meet the barrier. Hopefully the suspension has withstood that, and then trying to get going in. Spins for a second time, luckily not getting in anyone's way, just about. But yeah, very difficult day for Dave Wood, has not got any better. And Terry Williams now trying to fend off 13th from Tom Watson, has had a mistake themselves into T1, dropping now to 15th position.
We're about to find out how that happens. They were fighting for position. They were really giving it go at each other. And into turn 1 they go in the inside line. Oh, that looked like a lock-up of the rears. The car looked like it crowded under braking and then snatched itself and then spun itself round. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure pulling the handbrake into T1 is the best idea here, but yeah, unfortunate mistake there for Terry Williams. Hopefully they can get through the final couple of laps cleanly. Yes, this race is starting to run out, But it looks like we're going to have a battle on our hands for the final lap. The gaps between Basson, Simo and Tomlinson continue to close as Craig Tillotson has had an incident and has had to tow back to pit lane from 11th place, 10th place, I think it was, coming through turn 2 and just pulls over. Some issue for them. Pulls over, turns to pits. Not sure what the issue is, but either way, some issue has forced them to retire with not long to go. They'll drop down the order, promote some other drivers up the field as we look at this battle over P4 coming up to start-finish line to start the final lap. A lapped car getting out of the way. And it looks like it's going to be two teammates perhaps fighting over 4th place. Dan Tomlinson has just fallen a bit back, now nearly a second and a half back. Might be too far back here, but maybe a battle erupts here between Simo and Basson. Might be able to take advantage. Corners are counting down, just 12 more to go. Can Simo find a way through? It will be difficult to fight through the dirty air, through the middle sector. But we have seen some moves. Some into turn 10 has been the most common spot outside of T1. Can Simo make it one final move? You can see Dan Tomlinson is closing up, has gained nearly a second through the first sector alone as Simo sits in the dirty air. We mentioned this is a prime overtaking opportunity as Ben Holmes is fighting with Elvin Blomqvist for the final top 10 spot and does look to have got that move with just one lap to go. Simo not quite close enough for the move into turn 10, is gonna have to wait a little bit longer, but as they wait, it'll be Aidan Carter, after a disastrous or a good comeback in the first race, will finally take the top step here in our Super Formula Light series and sets an even quicker fastest lap down to a 37.0, cementing another couple of points for them in their championship fight. Simo hasn't quite been able to keep up with Basson and is maybe given an opportunity here to Dan Tomlinson. Dan with the slipstream closing on the start finish line will not pull out in time. Simo just up by holds on to P5 by less than a tenth of a second. A good fight on the final couple of laps, and like that, Dan Tomlinson exactly 1 second quicker on that final lap. Thinking maybe a couple of mistakes in those final laps if he didn't make, might have been able to have got that position. Charlie Morgan will come home for 7th place. Maybe be a bit neutral against that. Could have been better, but also could have been worse, setting a personal best lap on the final lap. Dennis Pfeiffer's will take P8. Luca Monroe will eventually come through for P9, coming out for the final corner now, and Ben Holmes, after that mistake, has recovered, taking P10 on the final lap, ahead of Elvin Blomqvist, who will be the last of our finishers on the lead lap.
Indeed, we just wait for Dave Wood to come to the line, or race could have been for him, but he will be sure to maybe lick his wounds, come back stronger next week. He'll come to the line and take the final position. And the checker flag is Aidan, I think quite rightly, doing some donuts. And look at that.
Making up for the mistake last week at Fuji, binning the car out of the final corner there. Had unfortunate, just wrong place, wrong time in the first race as they went into T1. Sander on the inside, just losing the rear end. Nothing Carter could do to avoid that incident. Recovered, very great recovery in that first race to get back up to P3 to take a podium. And this race from 8th on the grid, the reverse grid, taking advantage of it, getting themselves to the lead in just 3 laps, remember. They were leading from the end of lap 3 and would dominate this race, not repeating the mistakes of last week.
Your feature race results. Carter takes the win from Dove, Bottleson, Basson, Simo, Tomlinson, Morgan, Pipers, Monroe, and then Holmes, your top 10. Now it's Bloomquist, Watson, Pipers, Williams, Wood, Tillotson, Staples, Page. We go down to the lower end of the grid. Sander and then Hobbs. Sadly, both Sander and Hobbs not being able to finish the race and classified 13 and 14 laps down, respectively. And that, folks, is that for officially round 2 of the championship. It is third week, but of course that little hiccup with Spa on week 1 means we're doing 1 week shorter. But a fantastic evening here in Mugello, no doubt about that. It's been a pleasure, Scotty. Thank you very much for being in the comments booth with me. It's a fantastic race, wasn't it?
Yeah, we saw some great racing action. Good battle between Munro and Ben Holmes in that second race. Even though it wasn't for a top 10 position, it was a great fight to see them go at it, lap after lap, until Ben Holmes, of course, made that mistake. I love troubles for people. I mean, it's been a recurring theme for our iRacing series right from the start of the year. People have just struggled with sort of the balance of their cars. Many people losing the rear end at whatever point, making a mistake and dropping down the order. We've seen more of it today. Yeah, I wonder how much more of it we will see as we go into next week, which will mark the midway point of the series now, as we head to a wonderful wee track we haven't visited yet, and we rarely get to visit across all our series. Heading to Montreal to the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home of the Canadian Grand Prix. Nice short wee track, good slipstreaming opportunity, start finish straight and the back straight just before it. Oh, I imagine that'll be quite fun.
I imagine so as well. Same time and same place for iRacing next week. We do have a full week's worth of, well, reasonably full week's worth of streams coming up for you. Tomorrow is not a streamed event, but wonderful friends over a new community specialising in Assetto Corsa, AMS2 and the Sims that used to be on oNiD, but still are absolutely wonderful. It is Gridlink, the launch event, a race with AMS2. All the sign up information is in our Discord server. Go to Gridlink on SimGrid, one of the many communities on there, but do sign up for the Friday launch event race on AMS2. Sunday we'll be back with LMU for our future Sunday Night League, and again LMU again on Monday night as well. Tuesday we'll be back to AC, Assetto Corsa, for our IndyCar Championship. Wednesday will be the GT3 and LMP Multiclass Academy, and then we'll be back here once more for more Formula Racing, or super lights, should I say, for the next week of iRacing Championship. And again, as we said, we go to Quebec, we go to Montreal, we go to where all great things from Canada have come, such as Ryan Reynolds and Nickelback. It's going to be a good race next week. Thank you so much for your viewership and your support. Scotty, anything else to say before we go and sign off for tonight?
Plenty of great racing coming up over the next week. Nice to see AMS2 returning with Gridlink. Tuesday, mentioned the IndyCar series. It's the oval time. We're heading to Phoenix. Who knows how that will go? So yeah, tune in for that. Yeah, should be a great week of racing. Can't wait for it. Yeah, roll on the weekend.
Roll on the weekend. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening, and don't forget, it's Friday tomorrow. Have no fear. The weekend is almost here. Good night. See you all very, very soon.